So today I just wanted to share with you my experiences on using compilers such as IBM Excel, open source compilers such as GCC, LLVM on Power. So I just wanted you to give an overview of the kind of options that we can use to tune application performance. I also wanted to share how these options look like for each of these compilers. I also wanted to talk about compiler optimization remarks and how they can be used to give additional insights both about your application and about the compiler that you're using, because the remarks, optimization remarks, actually produce a log of what kind of optimizations the compiler attempted and what it could do and what it could not do and so on. So that's a very interesting add-on to the compilers that you could potentially exploit in your day-to-day life. So let's look at this in a bit. Let's go to the next slide. So yeah, first we need to understand why the compiler is important and why we should know about how to best use the compiler, because it's one of the most important tools in your toolbox. So Power has been traditionally a RISC architecture, and so is Power 9. It has a detailed pipeline of various stages: fetch, decode, dispatch, issue, execute, and write back and commit stages. As you can see, there are multiple load store units, vector scalar and arithmetic units that can support up to 128 instructions per cycle in flight. So it is obvious that the compiler has to do a lot of functions in order to assist the processor in ensuring that the application runs most optimally. So some of those could be outlined as follows. So compiler presents an optimal sequence of instructions to the pipeline such that there are no bottlenecks. It also schedules these instructions so that many of them can run in parallel at the same time, and so that it can also take advantage of this multitude of functional units that you have, basically efficiently using the processor resources so that you can get more work done in less time. And all this entails using the new ISA that gets introduced in every new generation of Power, which will exploit these additional units that keep getting added from generation to generation. It really helps to think of the processor as having two parts. So one is the front end and the other is the back end. The front end is just concerned with fetching, decoding, and dispatching issues. Basically, it's just concerned with getting a seamless supply of instructions to be executed by the backend. And the backend can be thought of as just an execution engine. It takes this instruction stream that comes in from the front end and just is bothered about executing them as efficiently as possible. So it is very obvious that if you have branches in your code, that is likely to play spoil sport in the front end, because once you have a branch, then you introduce an element of choice. You can either choose to go in one direction or the other. So the processor has to predict in advance the direction which you're likely going to take, so that there's no delay in the pipeline waiting for that, and subsequently that delay doesn't get propagated further in the pipeline. So usually advanced processors have branch predictors that predict with very high accuracy which direction the branch is going to be taken, so that the processor just goes ahead and fetches those instructions from that address. So that's how the branches figure in this equation. So, I mean, by now you would have realized that there is a lot of potential opportunities for improvement in the front end, and that is largely concerning branches. So, speaking from the context of the compiler, we can think of a program having branches either coming in from loop branches, or we can have branches coming in from function calls and returns, right? So we can definitely smoothen the fetch stream by reducing branches, occurrent loops, and function calls by using very traditional techniques such as unrolling and inlining, which have been there from a long time earlier. So these strategies, how do these strategies help is they usually increase the field of scope for the compiler to identify greater opportunities and move things around, right? Basically, they, speaking at a very layman's language, they increase the leg room so that the compiler can move things around without having to bother a lot. That's how usually these these optimizations help. Now, how can we enable this in what ways we can enable this. So there are different compiler flags, which we will see next, that you could use to essentially enable unrolling and inlining. You can use pragmas and source attributes specify at the language level if you want to specifically unroll a particular loop or specifically inline a particular routine. You can also use built-ins, which is also a source language feature, and you can actually give hints to the compiler if you already have prior knowledge of the paths that are likely going to be taken, particularly if those branches are very hard to predict by the hardware. You could also convert very simple if conditions in using a ternary C operator. Basically you're essentially converting a control flow dependency to a data dependency. So when the compiler looks at this ternary operator, it will automatically generate ICEL instructions. That's a part of the PowerPC, and it is very useful in cases where branches are difficult to predict, because ICEL usually lightens the burden on the branch predictor. So these are some of the ways you can facilitate these optimizations. So if you look at the table, so this kind of gives you an overview of how you can enable each of these features in the different compilers on Power, right? So you have the corresponding options in Excel, and you also have the corresponding options on GCC and LLVM as well, which enables all these opportunities. So yeah, many of these opportunities can also be realized in source. And each of these techniques are associated with benefits and drawbacks. So depending on your need, which is more priority to you, you can basically go ahead and choose which you can do. But essentially, most of the cases, you won't have to do any of this because the compiler is intelligent enough to do most of these automatically. But even then, it's always good to know some of these techniques, particularly if you want to tune the application further. So it's always good to know what additional things you can do from your end to help the compiler, right? So that it always helps. Apart from these, there is this basic link time optimization, which also improves performance quite significantly, because it further increases the scope by expanding across multiple files. So basically, instead of just looking at a single file and the functions within that file, interprocedural optimizations which get enabled in link time optimization, it opens out a new field for the compiler to play with. So now the compiler looks at a global scope that includes all the files together, and it can enable further optimizations such as a more aggressive aligning and so on and so forth, which will significantly help in performance improvements. So it's good to know these options. Now, with that overview of the front end, let's look at a brief overview at the back end. So like we mentioned earlier, the back end is just concerned with executing instructions efficiently, making use of all the units in the hardware, right? So that's what back end does. And the compiler also takes care of scheduling instructions in such a way that there are no bottlenecks, there are no dependencies, and things like that. So when you talk about processor resources, so registers are the most premium resource in any processor, because there are only a few in number. So registers is definitely the most premium resource. So there are several ways you can reduce register pressure, basically, because you have different kinds of instructions, such as vectorization instructions, where you can use the vector registers to do your job. It also helps in reducing work done. Basically, you can combine similar work that you've been doing over multiple iterations in just one iteration, because you'll end up doing the same work on different data elements at a given time, right? So vectorization definitely helps. Further, if your code is very simple and it's free of pointers and convoluted branches, the compiler will automatically do this vectorization for you. But if at all, if your source code is written which is very complicated, which has pointers and branches all around, compiler usually struggles to vectorize such loops, right? So it's always good to know what you can do from your end to enable some of this, right? So that is one of the most important optimizations in the backend. Apart from that, there are some interesting things that you could do, particularly with respect to caches and prefetching, that we will look at in the next slide. So So basically, yeah. So apart from this, there are other things that you could do. So there are some instructions in PowerPC where you can combine registers together. Like for example, you have the add dot instruction, which combines the functions of add and compare together, so that you don't have to have two instructions, but you can just have one. Similarly, you can have and complement, which combines the functionality of both and complement instructions. Basically, it reduces the number of instructions you have in your program. So essentially, to use any of these new ISA, you will need to use that specific architecture option that's described here in the table, so that the compiler generates the appropriate instructions for that particular architecture, right? So let's look at some of the cache-friendly optimizations that we can do. So caches, next to registers, caches are the next most important resource in your processor, right? So basically, caches are organized in multiple levels of hierarchy, and the farther you go from the processor, the more time you will likely take to get the data elements for processing by your program, right? So it's essentially good to know what kind of techniques you can employ to reduce cache dependencies and cache usage. So one of the things that you could do, and particularly if you have enumeration types in your program, we have seen this in many cases where you have a simple enum declaration, and even though the range of values is not quite large, compiler usually assigns a default integer type to declare elements of that enum type, right? And particularly if your program has a large number of values of this particular data type, then it unnecessarily causes bloat in memory, right? So you could use a specific compiler flag to tell the compiler to just use only the minimum memory required to store that particular value. You don't have to go and use the default integer data type for that purpose. So this we have seen helps reduce a lot of memory footprint. But on the negative side, it may introduce some unalignment issues. So you'll need to be aware of that. So the other things that you could do to improve cache performance is something called as prefetching. So prefetching has been there in over many years. It's a feature available in the processor by default. So you have a hardware prefetcher sitting there. You may not even realize it, but as and when your program is executing, and there are loads and stores that are following a particular pattern, the hardware is smart enough to start a prefetch stream internally, which recognizes these patterns and starts prefetching values well in advance before it's even required, so that by the time you need that value, it's already there closer to the processor, and you don't spend a lot of time in accessing those values. So some of this can also be enabled on the software side. So you have compiler flags, particularly if you know that your program has a lot of pattern kind of accessing loads and stores. You can use compiler flags to denote that, and rely on the intelligence of the compiler to place these prefetch instructions automatically. So in some cases that helps, but in some cases you can even if you don't want to rely on the compiler, but you can just go ahead and put these prefetching instructions yourself if you know the application very intimately, and you're sure that placing the prefetch instructions at particular points can really help. So there is an option for the user to do that manually as well. So it's useful to know some of these options. So by default, the DSCR setting. So the DSCR is the data stream control register, which basically controls various parameters such as how soon you start the prefetch stream, what is the depth, what is the ramp, how aggressive it is, and so on. So basically, it encodes all these parameters in a single value, and you can set these values on the command line. By default, it is set to 0, which has all the settings tuned at default levels. But you can change these values by specifying a customized value. And there are applications we've seen which are not friendly to prefetch. So it is very useful to disable prefetching for such applications. So both sides we have seen things work out, especially in the prefetching world. So it's always good to know what you need to do for a specific kind of application. Okay, so yeah, so there are other useful flags for improving performance. So one is obviously the profile directed feedback. Basically, if your program has certain parts that are often executed more than the rest, you know, some very special paths. So instead of the compiler trying to optimize everything, you can just limit the compiler to optimize only certain those hot paths, because you know, even if a small improvement in that hot path will result in larger gains. So profile directed feedback helps quite a bit in those cases. So the only downside to profile directed feedback is you'll need to do a additional compile and run step with a smaller input, so that you generate the profile and the compiler gets to know, okay, which are the hot paths that are run most of the times, and so that it can redirect its efforts to optimize only those paths. And that is done by the final profile use step, or the PDF2 step if you're talking about Excel. So to generate the final optimized binary. So this binary will be optimized for those specific hot paths. And we have seen that in certain cases where the hot paths is all that matters, like most of the performance is sitting on those hot paths, we have seen profile directed feedback improve performance significantly. So any discussion on compiler performance is incomplete without mentioning libraries. So, you know, any application, if you see, the libraries form a very important part, right? So even if you speak about simple memory allocation routines or math routines that we have encountered, and there are several new libraries, especially now in the AI space, right? So any optimization is incomplete without using the fine-tuned libraries. So that is a for completeness. It's we always mention that as a final step to ensure that you're using the most optimal libraries for building your application and getting the best performance, right? So with that, I think, so we saw like an overview of the ways you can tune the application. Let's look at the optimization remarks. So this is some fun stuff that the compiler has as one of the features. Okay, and it's really interesting because it reveals the thought process of the compiler, and you can really use this to further optimize your application. So there are various options in all the three compilers. So you have the QReport option in Excel, and you have the foptinfo kind option in GCC. You have a similar RPass flag in LLVM. So all the three compilers support these options, so that the compiler kind of generates a log as and when it's trying to optimize your code. So let me quickly go to an example. So on the left side, you will see the bubble sort routine. So it's a very simple bubble sort routine that is there. And on the right side, you will see the remarks that the compilers have generated for each of these compilers, right? So consistently, you will see that since there is a function call in the highlighted region in the loop, all the three compilers have stayed away from vectorization. So the one thing to take out of these kind of remarks, so in a general case, you know, one would take this feedback and go and try to inline these routines and see if, you know, it will result in additional inlining. So that's how we usually take the feedback provided by the compilers and do the rest, right? So another example, so there is in the same routine in another loop, so there is an if condition in a for loop nest, and the compiler again has shied away from vectorizing this code because there is a condition within the loop. So, I mean, this condition happens to be slightly complicated because it's just not a simple one-line if condition. There are three instructions within the if clause, and also there are cross iteration dependencies. So anyway, the compiler will not vectorize this kind of a loop. But in general, how do we take this feedback is we go back and we try some of the techniques we already discussed in the front end chart, and we try to reduce the if conditions or move code around or use additional optimizations flags to remove the branches, or maybe even use built-ins and things like that to restructure the code, and then try again with these optimization flags and see that if they are picked up. So that's how usually we use these remarks basically. So in this particular case, LLVM generates two additional flags, which shows that it has performed unrolling of 4, a factor of 4 for the particular loop that's highlighted, and also it has inlined the bubble sort routine into main. So usually the compiler also reports on what it could do, and it also reports on what it could not do, basically. So both these options are pretty useful. So I hope that in this little time I've kind of convinced you that compiler is your powerful ally, and we saw how we can use these compilers in various capacities to tune your application performance. And I hope I could give you a brief overview of the optimization remarks and why those remarks are important, because they deepen your insight about the application and the compiler itself. So these are some of the references that we have from time to time gone back again and again, which have been proven to be very useful for some of these discussions that we had today. So I just wanted to share those with you. Sorry, I ran over by 5 minutes, but yeah, if there are any questions, yeah, probably we could take them now.